ladies and gentlemen, Bob Schena.
This one, is that better? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Andrews, and really the community. It's been a great couple of months now since we flew down a couple of months ago and met Brett and really got to learn about your area. Everybody's been so kind to me and the Rajant team. It's been interesting to me culturally too, because last night at Dr. Andrews' house, a couple of folks commented on how much they liked my accent. And that was news to me because I didn't know I had an accent. So that was very generous of spirit of them. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Rajant. I'm going to tell you what we do, but there's a lot of young people in here. I'm also going to tweak it a little bit and talk about what you do to create a business and some of the decision points and some of the things you have to emphasize. It's not always what it seems. Matter of fact, not often what it seems in creating a business. So, Rajant, as you can see, it was founded in 2002 by me and one other fellow. We really created the company as a response to the towers collapsing in New York City. Everybody's aware there were communications issues that day. One of the ones that caught our attention was in regards to the recovery pit. For about 6 months or so, as they were extracting debris from the pit, they did not have access to the internet. So people would write notes, pieces of paper, and deliver them to the edge of the pit, where policemen assigned to gather the notes would then drive many blocks and rekey the request into the internet. I thought that was pretty kludgy. That ought not to be the way of doing things. So we came up with the idea of making it possible to bring your wireless network with you and to have it set up easily and to also not have to know anything about networking. Because often when there's been a fire, flood, explosion, a place where there's no network, there's often not networking people around. So our goal was to make it possible for people who didn't know much about networking to set up networks really fast. And that was the predicate of the company. So you have an idea, what do you do? Where do you go? We went to Battelle Ventures. Battelle is the venture arm of Battelle Labs. Battelle Labs is out of Columbus, Ohio. They do about $4 billion a year of research and development for the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense. And just to show you how things tie together, they originally, like in the 40s, Battelle founders invested in Xerox and ultimately made almost a couple $1 billion, and that's how they funded the Battelle Memorial Institute. So we convinced them to invest $3.2 million in Rajant. And there's an old Steve Martin line of how do you create a small fortune? Start with a large one. And that's what every venture capitalist does when they look at you, or they go, are you going to take my big check and turn it into a small check? So that's the first question you have to overcome. Ben Franklin Technology Partners is the state economic development authority in Pennsylvania. So they lent us, I think it was $200,000, and that was critical financing at the time. That kept the lights on for a few more months and allowed me to hire a person or two. And Ben Franklin Technology Partners, they are happy with Rajant because we paid the money back. And that's not always the case. Innovation Valley Partners, they're out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and they were also an investor in the company. So we had this idea, we found some investors, and we were off and running. And today we went from 2 people, and now these are the kinds of customers we have. We make ruggedized, hardened, wireless devices, and I'll pass these around so you can get a sense of what I mean. And they go on things like mining vehicles, and they go on trucks, they go on aircraft, they go on drones, they go on people. So from that little idea, back in 2002, we have some of the largest companies in the world doing business with us today. Recently, ExxonMobil selected Rajant and our technology to be their communications network for the largest oil sands project in the world. It's a $40 billion project, and out of all the networking gear that they could have selected, they selected us. Again, now I know there's a mining element to southeastern Kentucky, and these are really the BHP Billiton and Rio Tinto are the two largest mining companies in the world. Peabody Coal is the largest coal mining company in the USA. We're the network standard in the mines for Peabody Coal today. And Rio Tinto's largest mines, BHP Billiton, they now standardize on Rajant as well for their largest and most complex mines. These are some of our military customers. So as you can see, it's not just the Army, but the prime contractors such as Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Harris. This all is a result of that idea from two people in 2002. Now it's not two people, it ultimately for, how many young people here think they'd like to start a business? Okay, and young is a broad concept. Well, that's good to know there's so many crazy people here in Moorhead, because I think the prior speaker touched upon craziness, and I will as well. So, this point here, you'll see that Northrop Grumman, for 4 years now, has selected Rajant as one of their top 27 vendors out of almost 10,000 vendors. So that's now 50 people up from 2, and it's a team. And there's a reason for this, because one of the ways that I'm crazy is that I'm insane. I'm really insane about how we react to customer problems. And you always have customer problems. So for those of you who want to start a business, hopefully I can discourage you before the talk is over from doing that. There's a way you end up being the top supplier for Northrop Grumman. And the way it is whenever you have a customer and they buy $10,000 worth of your stuff, or $20,000 worth of your stuff, or 50 or $1 million, if you have a problem with them, how many think a $50,000 problem with a customer is a $50,000 problem? It is not. It is the value of your company is at risk for a $50,000 problem. So if our company is worth $20 million, $20 million is at risk for a $50,000 problem. And that's how you have to act. So if you have a $20 million problem, but it's consumed with $50,000 worth of stuff, how much would you spend to fix it? You'd spend more than $50,000. You might spend $100. You might spend $150 because your $20 million is at risk. And why is it at risk? Because of the world today and how it's connected by social media. If you are a small company that no one has ever heard of and you screw up somewhere, everyone in the world will know. And they will know quickly. Whatever business you're in, it's a small community. The satellite community, it's a small community. The mining community, very small. Oil and gas, as big as it sounds, it's really not big. They're in Houston, they're in Calgary, they're a couple places, and everybody knows everything. So with Facebook, LinkedIn, tweeting on Twitter, your mistake, your failure will consume your company. Now, a company like Northrop Grumman, been around a long time, big companies, they don't like to screw up, but they can afford an error or two. They have the overhead to absorb it. So I like to tell our team that our aspiration is to be so big that we too can fail. But in the meantime, we have to solve the problem. So that may be the most important thing that I've learned over the years, is that in order to be trusted by your customers, you have to act as if every time you make a sale, you're betting the future of your company. And so we react that way. And I don't count dollars when we're solving a customer problem. This is an example of how our idea, and it was a small idea when we began, but I believe, like the prior speaker does, is that we say yes to stuff. We don't say no to anything. And then we figure it out. Get in the game, figure it out. So what this is a Peabody coal mine in Gillette, Wyoming. And that's a 100 square mile area. That's an actual network snapshot from a Rajant administrative tool. And every one of those ovals is what I'm passing around, a Rajant radio, on a mining truck. And what they do is they mesh together and they create basically a Wi-Fi network on steroids over the whole 100 square mile area. And as those vehicles move, and they move 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's no administrator. We've managed to automate almost all the elements associated with network administration. And so that means in our software, which is resident on our box, from our small two-man shop, we've now invested over $40 million in our software to make that possible. So what that means is, from the mining company's perspective, is they can connect to every piece of equipment in that mine on a 24/7 basis. And those trucks now we can do condition monitoring on a mining vehicle, so that before the truck breaks down and an engine fails or a transmission fails, the software can predict when and how something might fail. So rather than having a $400,000 catastrophic engine failure, you might have to change a valve or add a seal and keep the truck in operation. So every time we install in a mine, the mine saves millions of dollars a year in vehicle repair and asset extension. So our first mine was in Kennecott. It was in Salt Lake, Utah. It was a Kennecott copper mine. And from there, we're now in 70 mines around the world. We're in North America, Central America, South America, Africa, Australia, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. Again, that's from the two people. And what we've been able to do is attract really great people, because it's certainly not me writing code. That you wouldn't want to have happen. So what that means is however, we've gotten people to trust us all around the world. This mine here does about $400 to $500 million a year in revenue. And they run that mine across our network. That's what the Kennecott copper mine looks like. To the question of do you ever say no? When the customer asked us they said, could you guys put your equipment on 200 pieces of mining equipment, 200 trucks, and have them all be in motion all the time? We had never built more than 10. So we had no idea whether we could do 200. But we said yes, and we figured it out. Now this mine, to give you a sense of scale, the center of the mine is over 5,000 feet deep. So it's 1 mile down, and when they started the mine, it was 5,000 feet up. So they've moved 10,000 feet of dirt out of this mine. And today, and it's been 7 years now, this is about $1.5 billion revenue opportunity for Kennecott. For 7 years, every hour of every day, they've run that mine across a Rajant network. So that's the kind of opportunity that can flow out of ultimately establishing trust with your customer. Now think about trust with your customer. We're Rajant Corporation. We're 50 people in Pennsylvania, another 20 people scattered around the world, so it's about 70 full-time people associated with our company. When somebody makes a decision to buy equipment for $1 billion operation, what is it that they're considering? What are they thinking about? That's a human there. Probably a guy, could be a gal, and they're thinking, I'm going to make a recommendation about what to buy. And if I screw up, it means my job. So that person on the other side of your discussion is betting their career on you. So the safest thing for this person to have done is to recommend equipment from somebody people know, Cisco Corporation, Motorola. Those are our two largest competitors in the mining industry. So we not only have to overcome the normal competitive stuff that goes on, that, what does your stuff cost, and how long does it last, and what's your warranty? But a smaller company has to overcome the idea that the buyer of your equipment is taking a career risk to choose your technology. And so that's the point you're selling to. You have to be so trustworthy, so responsive that the person's willing to take that leap of faith across a pretty big chasm. And that chasm is to them their career. And so what's a career? A career, that person that you're selling to, that person probably has a family, they probably have a wife, they probably have kids, they probably have a mortgage, they have car payments, they have tuition to Moorhead State coming in the future. As reasonably priced as it is, they still have to save for it. Those are the things that go into the decision. It's not just a customer, it's a human with real life issues. And he or she wants those issues answered by you before they're willing to take that risk. So never forget that it's not a customer, it's a human, it's a person with a life and obligations and responsibilities, just like you do. And if you understand the risks on the human side, you have a better chance of being trusted. Being trusted comes out in you have got to solve their problem. Almost every customer is buying your stuff not because it's a cool iPhone thing, which is really cool, but because it solves a problem for them. And that solving the problem ultimately comes down to, can they trust you? So the issue of trust, obviously critical in business. When you get to the military side of things, trust comes down to, I'm putting my life in your hands. When you sell equipment to the military, oftentimes if your stuff doesn't work, people die. So it's really a big issue. So in this case, you see CRAM in the middle. This is in effect the U.S. version of Israel's Iron Dome. It's counter-rocket, artillery, and mortar. And what you have here is a system of radars that protect the base. With inside the fence, you see that's a base. And the enemy outside the base can be firing rockets or mortars or whatever projectile they happen to have. And they're firing it towards American soldiers in the base. And so what Rajant has done now is we provide the radio connectivity from the radars to all the alert towers in the base, and also back to missile batteries and everything that you see here is networked together wirelessly. It's networked with Rajant technology. So what that means is somebody fires a rocket, the radars pick up the track of the rocket. This is a change, and this is why our technology is now used. Originally, in Iraq, this was first deployed in Iraq, when that rocket was inbound and the radars picked it up, they would alert the whole of the base. They'd set off sirens, like a municipal fire department siren would go off over the whole base, and the whole base would be warned. problem came about when most of the time the projectiles are fairly small. They would hit some place in the base. Most people wouldn't hear the explosion. And after 3 or 4 times of not hearing an explosion after hearing the alert, they started to ignore the alert. And people started getting injured. So the military came up with a really great idea. They said, when the alert goes off, when the missile is inbound towards the base, we want the radars to determine where that rocket is going to land and only set off an alert at the area of impact. So now the rest of the base never hears the alert. There's telephone poles all over the base with our radios on them and speaker systems. When the computer says it's going to land in the lower left-hand corner, only that alert tower goes off and it goes, warning, warning, incoming, incoming. And you have about 12 to 15 seconds, depending upon the projectile, to take cover. So the military, after extensive multi-year testing, selected Rajant radios to be the communications package. I mentioned, it's about trust, and it's about putting lives at risk. A few months ago, one of our salespeople was on an airplane flying back from Philadelphia to Salt Lake City, and he was wearing a Rajant shirt. It was a t-shirt, golf shirt with a Rajant logo on it. And a fellow came up to my sales guy and said, "Are you involved with Rajant?" And my guy said, "Yes." And this fellow said, "Well, I want to thank you." And Todd said, "For what?" He said, "Well, I was recently deployed to Afghanistan, and our unit took live fire in our base, and the alerts went off, and we were warned in time, and we were able to take cover, and nobody was injured. So your technology saved my life." So that's to me, the finest compliment that we could get at Rajant, is our technology worked, and it helped save the life of U.S. servicemen. There's a second example of real life saving. If you remember during the main part of the Iraq War, and also in Afghanistan, the enemy could not take on American soldiers directly. Because to take on the American military directly means you're going to have a short life. So they came up with roadside bombs, ways to indirectly fight us. So the U.S. military came up with a program called Project Wolfhound, where they would send 3-man teams, each man wearing that funny-looking apparatus. In that backpack, you see this antenna sticking out to the left. There's a Rajant radio in there. We call our radios breadcrumbs. So this fellow's wearing a Rajant radio, and connected to the radio is that weird thing sticking out the top. And that detects very, very, very low power radio signals. The kinds of signals given off by garage door openers or cell phones. So these 3-man teams walk around Afghanistan, and if there's somebody with a garage door opener or a cell phone, this 3-man team detects it, and off the 3 men they can triangulate and find out where the bad guy is. So we know that over 2,000 times in Afghanistan that this technology is able to stop a bomber before they can detonate a bomb. So that's the kind of thing. Thank you. So when we're talking here about your Space and Science Center and what technology can do, these are 2 examples of how smart engineers can make a difference in the lives of American soldiers, and obviously far beyond that. But the young folks back there, when you wonder, like, do I really need to know this? Should I do this problem set tonight? I mean, who's ever going to do calculus? I mean, come on, when does that ever come up? It comes on a bit about Rajant. I just wanted to touch on 4 points that they're kind of necessary to have a business succeed, particularly a technology-based business. credibility. Every step of the way, if you think about the customers we have, the kinds of applications we have, think about that person across the desk wondering whether they should bet their career on you. A lot of other things going on in their life. Why should they bet on you? What have you done? What do you continue to do every day that makes you believable? You know, I have 5 children, and I have 3 still in college, and I have one son who he and I go back and forth on this issue pretty regularly, and I don't think there's anything I can emphasize to him more than this: that when somebody looks at you in your life, what they're really saying is, "Can I believe you? Can I believe you?" And if you behaved in a manner that gives them doubt, you've chosen the wrong path. You've chosen the wrong path. So in business, obviously in life, everything else you do, but to get somebody to think about the investor up front, you're asking somebody for money. Now, people with money, people with savings accounts know that however big their account is, there's always more ways to spend it than there is money in the account. So when you go to say, I need 100,000, or I need 200,000, or $1 million, or 3 million, or 5 million, or 7 million, like you just got today, the person you're asking has uncounted numbers of ways they can allocate their money. Why should they give it to you? You have to be aware they're thinking that. Vision, I go back and forth on vision because it's cool to have really good ideas, and I have a great idea today about how Rajant can partner with Moorhead State and we can put wireless networks in space. And that's a really cool thing to talk about, and it's fun, and it's exciting, but every 2 weeks my employees want to be paid. And they don't really care about how much fun I'm having at Moorhead. They want that check to clear. So this is a balancing act. Don't let your vision get ahead of the fact that you have day-to-day work to do. You have the calculus program set. Nobody wants to do it. It's got to be done. So vision has to be married with, I'll do my blocking and tackling every day. Every day. And don't get lost in the fact that vision, it's the coolest stuff to work on in a business, but the bills have to be paid. Persistence. Yeah, this is a boring one. You hear your whole life, you got to be persistent. But in the case of a business, you have, as the founder of an organization or a company, it's your job every day to add energy to the organization. If no one sees you care, they're not going to care more than you. They just won't. So you have to show up every day. There's a saying that, you work a 40-hour week when you work for somebody, and then when you're fortunate enough to have your own business, then you work 100 hours. That's the case. There's no snow days. There's no sick days. Oftentimes, there's no vacation for years. Most entrepreneurs have this happen to them, but they don't talk about it much. There's a time early in the life of your company, and you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 employees, where you don't have enough money to pay everybody. So who don't you pay? You don't pay yourself. And then your wife goes, wait a second, I thought you were the CEO. What do you mean we're not getting paid? Well, what you do if you want your employees to keep showing up is you pay them first. So the definition of leadership is putting yourself last, not first. Putting yourself last. Humble yourself, because you can't do it by yourself. But you can set the example of persistence. Not only can you, you have to. And then craziness, that was touched upon earlier. Where does the craziness come from? It comes from the fact that almost everybody you talk to says no. They will say, no matter how great your idea is, how articulate you are, and how motivated and how smart your business plan is, they will say no. And then the next day, someone else will say no. And the day after that, someone else will say no. To put up with this, to not be paid, to put your own money at risk, you have to be crazy to do it. Normal people are too smart to do this. I know that sounds funny, but it is. I mean, there's other people there are many times I look at other people and they get the check and it's the 40 hours and they get the vacation and they were able to save up and get the nice vacation home down the shore. And my life is not like that. It has been up, it has been down. Sinatra would say all around. So this is something you have to be willing to step outside and be criticized. Because think of what's going to happen. We started with asking Battelle Ventures for money. People are not funny about money, particularly when you lose their money. So those conversations are not pleasant. And I have had successes and I've had failures, and they are the worst. You know, when they're lending you money, you're in the nice conference room, and the food's great. It's on the wonderful, elegant platters. Everyone is really happy to see you. And then be late on a payment. You're in the coffee room. Styrofoam cups, no more with the plates. And the sweat is growing, like, on your back, and they're no longer nice to you. They introduce you to a different person, the workout guy, and he is not your friend. So you have to be prepared to live with failure, because you will. I think of an average venture capital firm funds about maybe one out of 1,000 business plans that they see. So already you go, I'm gonna try to raise venture money, or you've just announced you're a nut, right off the bat. And then they're even worse than the workout guy at the bank if your plan's not going according to plan. And I can assure you that 100% of the time your business plan will not go according to plan. So this craziness is an important element. But all of this said, I wouldn't have passed it up or given up the path I've been on. So those of you who think you can do this, I would encourage really you to do it. If you can't, even if you, and it's, we're now over 20 million in revenue, and it's something like 1 in 10,000 startups gets to 10 million revenue. So it's really hard to do, but even if you try it, you will learn so much that if your company doesn't succeed, when you go on to work for somebody else, you will be a valuable person because of the skills you have learned. So I would recommend it. And that's it. That's kind of the Rajant story. And that's my thoughts on technology startups or startups in general. And if anybody has any questions, I'd like to field. Yes, sir.
Why did you pick Moorhead?
Well, I picked Moorhead. I alluded to this yesterday. Unfortunately, in American business today, you have to have a lot of lawyers. And as an aside, sometimes I look at my employees now and I go, I don't really have employees, I have future litigants. So, I try not to have that be the case. But so a lawyer of mine, his name is Bob Schuster, and his brother is Bill Schuster, and Bill is a congressman, and he's the chairman of the House Transportation Committee. And his father, Bud Schuster, was a congressman, was also chairman of the House Transportation Committee. Extremely effective congressman. There are no shortages of 4-lane highways in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So I went to Bob Schuster, my lawyer, and we were just talking one day, and I said, I want to expand, I want to affiliate, probably with a college or university, and I don't want it to be in Pennsylvania. I'd like to Pennsylvania's been great to me, but I want to move and take advantage of some other places as well. So he said, well, what do you think of Hal Rogers in Eastern Kentucky? Well, I never thought of Hal Rogers in Eastern Kentucky, just because I didn't know anything about him. So I said, fine, So you make the recommendation. So he introduced me to Hal Rogers' chief of staff, Dave Thomas at the time. And Dave referred Brett Traver to me. And then I flew down to meet Brett, and Brett is just like a terrier with a bone. I have not been able to get him off my ankle since we met. The guy has been great. He represents this area really well. And he met me at the airport. He drove me here. We did a tour of the district. He warned me that would be a rigorous day, and he was correct. So he drove me all over Congressman Rogers' district, and we met the folks at Moorhead first stop, and I think it was Jeff Kruth, and I sit around here somewhere. There he is over there, and we walked into the science facility, and I'm looking at this place I've never heard of, and there's this 20-meter dish up on the hill, and there's this beautiful building, and then I walk in, and Jeff was like a long-lost Italian uncle. I noticed there's not a lot of Italians down here in Kentucky. I know they spread all over America. They skip southeastern Kentucky. I'm not sure why. But so Jeff says, you are the answer to my dreams. And I was like, wow, what does he eat before bedtime? But he was great. He showed me what he had done, and he's the world's most effective and efficient junk collector. He showed me his junk room, which has like satellite parts from like 1947. I think Alan Turing was using the satellite parts. But he was so enthusiastic, and then Ben and the rest of the crew, they met them, and they were just great. And it kind of stuck in my mind. That was my first stop. So we went and visited the rest of the district. People were just lovely everywhere in the district. But in my mind, I wanted Ragent to be affiliated with a university environment. I like being in town. We've been in a couple locations back in Pennsylvania, always downtown in a small community. So this kind of fit the culture I have an affinity for anyway. And then when I heard about the CubeSat stuff, I immediately thought, this is really valuable and important, the CubeSat stuff. And because because of our business, I'm aware of a lot of unfortunate and unpleasant things around the world. And it occurred to me that in the next big war, and unfortunately there will be a next big war, in the first 5 minutes of that war, the Chinese are probably going to knock down our satellite capability, probably take out our GPS capability, because our whole military is dependent upon GPS for flying, targeting, airborne, ground based, whatever it is, we're entirely dependent upon GPS. So I looked at the CubeSat opportunity, and we make meshing technology at Ragent, and I thought if you could marry the mesh to CubeSat, maybe there's a way to give the United States a rapid deploy capability to, if somebody takes out our satellites, that within a day or two we can put up a couple hundred and recreate a capability. And that was the vision in my mind. So I wanted to be affiliated with that. And with that vision and how gracious everybody was here, I said, well, let's find a way to make it happen. And we have. Really long answer to it. A short question.
But a good one.
Thank you. Any up? I got more. Oh, this just fell over here. Right. What's the vision for Ragent economically and growth-wise? I think that the software that we've developed, my valuation for the company today is about $100 million. And there are some things we do really well. For instance, you saw the picture of the Kennecott mine and the hundreds of nodes. Well, what the world calls that vehicle-to-vehicle, V2V communications. And every day there's some new article about autonomous vehicles, cars driving themselves. And there's an Israeli company called Mobileye. And look up Mobileye. They do they have a video camera in a vehicle. It looks front and back. And then they have software that analyzes the image and makes decisions about where the car should go. Mobileye, with less revenue than Rajant, has a $4 billion market cap. The reason they have $4 billion market cap is there's 60 plus million new cars sold per year globally. So the market's anticipating that it'll be a big market for autonomous vehicles. Well, we've been doing autonomous vehicles in the industrial world for many years already. So we're working with different people to try to move our software into the industrial world. There's a buzzword called the Internet of Things going on right now in the tech world. And the Internet of Things is that while we're all connected this way, but the Internet of Things anticipates that in a few short years, every valve, pump, motor that is on every piece of infrastructure, oil pipelines, power plants, anything you can think of that moves or has a physical element to it is going to be connected to the internet. Our software does that really well. And I won't spend any time on why that is, but it's an area where Rajant, if things break right for us, we should be a company doing more than $100 million a year in revenue, and with a valuation in excess of $1 billion. So that's my goal. Now, who knows, right? Stuff gets invented, and stuff that, we spend $40+ million on our software. Somebody can come up with something that obviates everything we've done. So we're a pretty credible company today from where we began, and now the question is, can we take it to another level? And remains to be seen. There was a question there.
Yes, I used to work in the mining industry as a repairman. I'm actually raised and passionate about the work you're doing. I think it's like a new revolution in the mining industry. My question is, have you considered adding the safety component to your system?
Yeah, there's a question about adding a safety component to our technology, and it's already happening. There's in the mining industry, the rapid trend is to move towards autonomy. And what does autonomy mean? It means that those 300-ton haul trucks won't have a driver in them. And that's going to be happening with it real soon. That work's going on today. We've run a train autonomously in the iron ore mine of Newfoundland, Canada for 7 years. I would say within 5 years, most mines globally, most large mines will be autonomous. And in order to accomplish that, you have to have collision avoidance. A 300-ton haul truck can run over a Suburban and not know it. So they're just so dangerous, those devices. So with our technology today, there's already radar being integrated, there's LiDAR being integrated, there's video being integrated. So in a very short period of time, 2 to 3 years, you won't be able to crash a mining vehicle in the autonomous mines. So that's coming. That's the same technology that's going to be on our automobile. As far as the integration of radars, laser technology, the Google car is a LiDAR. See that thing on its roof? That's about a $50,000 to $70,000 item. So it has to be cost reduced, but will be pretty quickly. Yes, Jeff?
A few years ago, we were involved in looking at some deep shaft mining safety radio applications. And I was wondering, with your network system, have you explored this concept of perhaps the miner himself, when he goes down in a deep shaft mine, wears your radio and is networked through the mine, so if a cave-in occurs, they'll know where he was, etc.
The question is about using our technology in underground mines. And it has and it is being used. Probably 20 to 30 underground coal mines use our technology to track miners today. So it's being used at MSHA, the Mine Safety Health Administration, came out with a regulation about 5 years ago after a mine accident. I forget what state it was in, but 20, 30 people were killed underground. So it was in West Virginia. And the result was the MSHA regulation saying that miners had to be tracked underground. And so that's going on today. It can be better. The problem, of course, is RF radio waves don't go through rock real well. There's solutions. I mean, if there's a cave-in, if you have a network in the mine, if you can drill a hole past the cave-in, you can drop one of our radios down, which is the plan for the radios we've sold underground. So yes, the technology can be used and is being used for that. Oh, they're giving me the hook here. So I'm going to have to go. Thank you, everybody.